Well, hello guys. My name is Donald Trump, and you guys thought you guys got rid of me off of Facebook and Twitter, but now we're going live on the
That's
BTG
great.
podcast. How are you guys doing? You
I
guys
thought
are
he got
great. You
shot.
guys are special. You guys are very special.
We're
I thought he got
tremendous.
shot. Mm.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to the Blind Tech Guys podcast. My name is Nimmer, and I'm back with you guys this week. And today is the 10th for some of you, the 11th for others, and probably some other date whenever this thing actually gets released. So, thank you guys for joining us. I'm very glad that you guys are here. And I'm in California, where it was about, 17, 18 today, about 64, somewhere around there. Nice day. And I'm located in Italy. I'm Gambini, like Italian mobster. How are you today, Marco? You want me to kill you or what?
No, not kill me, because I'm in Australia and it is hot. Very hot. Very, very hot. It's 98, something crazy. What's about 37 now? It's just gone up another degree. And it's warm. And that's all I have to say, really. And hello, listeners. And hello, Kurt.
Hello. Happy to be here.
And
Can't
we have
believe
to...
it. You're with us again on another
Yeah.
podcast?
Yeah, imagine that.
This is craziness. So we must, it'd be remiss of us not to wish Apple a happy birthday a couple of days ago, I believe, Nimmer.
Yes.
I believe it was Apple's birthday since their first iPhone release. So congratulations to them. Many billions have been made since then, that's for sure.
Yes. Happy birthday, Apple. And we addressed this on the midweek podcast, but happy late birthday to Braille and Louis Braille and all that, too.
Indeed.
All right. Well, we're very glad that you guys are here with us today. And we have a number of topics that we're going to discuss with you today. We have a nice, very lengthy news section today. So we'll go through some news items, quite a bit of stuff to talk about. Then we're going to have another discussion about websites.
Ooh,
And
lovely.
sort of just, what do you do when you first go to a website? How do you browse that website? It's a very important topic. We've gotten a number of people that have had issues with our form and filling that out. So we'll just go through what you might want to consider doing if you think something is not accessible. Then, since everybody loves to talk about weather apps, Marco wants to indulge us by talking about a weather app. Very good. Then Kurt has a section called Did You Know? And he's going to tell us about how to share your talkback labels and how to get talkback labels that others have created for apps with inaccessible buttons. And then I have a little bit of a chat on Linux that comes from a listener email and some of the accessibility features found in Linux towards the end. And that will be that. So we got a full section. So join us, get your popcorn out, get your whatever it is that you like to eat, your beers, your beverages. And
I was
enjoy
waiting
the
for the
fun.
popcorn line. Thank God you ripped that one out today.
Oh, yes. Very good. Also, if you like what you're hearing, please consider sharing it, liking, subscribing, getting it out there so that way we get more listeners and we can give you guys another prize. Thank you very much. And that will be that. So let's go ahead and get going.
And I have to say, Nimmer, that thank you for 3 listeners that we have listening live at the moment. If you want to pop your comments in, we'll definitely get to them throughout the show.
Hey, we had 4 when we first started. We lost
Yeah,
one
someone
already.
went
kish
kish
no,
kish.
who
We
left?
lost someone already.
Oh, that was probably Austin. Is there a dislike on that video yet? Oh dear. Oh well.
All right, so let's talk about the first article in here in the list. Mark,
What's
you wanna
new
talk
in the
about
news,
that?
ladies and gents?
Yes,
Well,
what's new in the news?
Google is offering autocorrect with their comments there, Nim. You probably know a little bit about that. I've certainly been following that. It's pretty much going to work, I think, the same as most other autocorrects within the Google sphere. Let's have a look here. They're going to roll it out to all sorts of G Suite applications as well.
So in Google Docs already, we have the ability to, anytime when you write something, you have the ability to have stuff auto-corrected. And you also have the ability to have essentially certain pieces of text announced, or not announced, but typed. It's called Smart Compose, so it thinks it knows what you want to write, and it writes that in. And so now they're bringing that into the comments section. So I think that's pretty exciting, and we'll have to play with that and let us know what you think of it. And that article will be in the show notes so that you can learn more about it as well. Then this next article, this happened last week. This Twitter acquires Breaker. Now, Breaker is a podcasting entity.
Yeah,
and,
which is interesting. The actual app is going to close down. I was reading this in another article. It's definitely closing down in a week or two. So the actual app is closing down. I believe it's a podcast client, isn't it?
Yes.
Or Breaker.
Yep. You can get your podcast from it. Now, this is interesting because Twitter is killing off their Periscope, or the ability to stream live on Twitter with Periscope,
which I think is a real shame. I like Periscope. That was a
Periscope
pretty
was
decent
fun.
app. Yeah.
They're still going to allow you to stream live using their own Twitter app, but it's interesting now they're combining with Breaker. We'll see what they end up doing with that. It's kind of interesting.
Just seeing if there's anything more of interest in there. There's not a huge amount of information there. It looks like the 15th of January will be the end of Breaker. If you're using that as a podcast client, you might want to switch to something else. But other than that, there's not a huge amount in there. Not sure when this is actually supposed to happen. Do you have any idea, Nim?
I believe Periscope is shutting down in March. So
Okay, so not for a while. Okay.
we'll see what ends up happening and how Twitter decides to use those resources.
Now, of course, Telegram's been in the heat off and on over the years regarding its privacy and location sharing and all this sort of stuff. We're going to probably discuss this in a bit more detail because there are a couple of other articles that'll come out throughout the podcast about this stuff. But there's some interesting stuff there with Telegram. You can pretty much use a GPS spoofing device if you want to get more information. It states here it's only showing the distance between you and other users, but it's interesting that they want that location information anyway. I'm not sure why they'd need that.
And they're not planning on changing that, it looks like.
They don't need that location information. What it actually is users can choose to share their location with friends, for instance.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And in which case, then Telegram would prompt for that location permission. Now, I don't really understand this article. It says that you'd need a GPS spoofing device, and with that, you can pin down location even further. Frankly, most
people
users
that do
aren't
that,
going to have.
yeah, I was going to say, people that do that are going to be doing dodgy stuff anyway. Really, let's face it.
Yeah, so I'm not really. Like I don't really know what other app wouldn't have the same vulnerability if it allowed you to share location data.
I think
what would the solution be for Telegram not to let you share location data?
Well, I think I think there's a little bit of over exuberance in this article. Maybe that's a nice way to put it. I mean, some people that are really some people that are really worried about privacy are probably going to be very, very concerned, I suppose, but I don't know. I think it's a little bit overhyped, personally.
My only issue is Telegram, I feel like, advertises itself as more private and secure than it really is. And, if you're informed, that's one thing. But, it just seems like a little bit of false advertising there on their part sometimes. But I guess who doesn't do that?
I disagree. I think Telegram is certainly more private than, for example, a WhatsApp, a Facebook, any of these other clients. And this location feature is actually disabled by default, so you have to choose.
You have to actually
share
turn it
your
on.
Location.
Yeah.
So actually, I look at this article and I see a lot of sensationalism. I mean,
Yeah.
this is not to say Telegram doesn't have issues. Any app has issues, but I will say that Telegram is better off in terms of privacy than quite a number of other apps.
Oh,
Chief
100%.
among them being WhatsApp. But we'll talk about that in a
Yeah.
minute.
Well, funny you should say that, Nim, because the next article is about WhatsApp, and there's been quite a lot of, quite a few of my friends have been blowing up about this one in
Yeah.
terms of them sharing stuff with Facebook. Now, I'm not sure why you wouldn't expect this to happen, considering it is owned by Facebook. I just would have thought that this was a step in that app's particular sort of way of doing things. But if you are worried about privacy, this article, I think, definitely is one to look at.
Yeah, and they certainly have, they've just actually made it so that you either share your information with Facebook, or if you do not agree to the terms, then you will not be using Facebook or WhatsApp. So you don't have a choice at this point but to share that information.
The thing that actually annoys me about WhatsApp with this is that I actually said no, I didn't want to share it. And I actually dismissed it, sorry. I dismissed the notification. Now it's still letting me use WhatsApp. And I've had this query, and I know you have, Nim, about certain things that you disable or don't answer on Facebook, but for some reason it still seems to know what you're doing. I actually wonder half the time if it's just put there for a button being put there for the hell of it, or what they're doing, to be perfectly frank. I don't know. I really don't trust WhatsApp at all, as you can probably
No, I
gather.
don't either. We have somebody from looks like from Singapore says hello to you. Your name shows up as Facebook user, so I'm not actually sure who you are.
Oh,
But
must be listening on the group or the page.
thank you
No,
for
probably the
being
group, yeah.
here.
Yeah, good
And,
to have you.
Looks like we lost one more person, though, but that's okay. Maybe
Now,
they're
I
just
put this article in about the Apple AirPods and the ridiculousness of their price, etc., etc.
$549.
It looks like, now I've only had a very quick listen with these headphones. I haven't really had a chance to do so, but I actually planned this week to go and play around with them at a store down here in Melbourne. It looks like they're reasonable bang for their buck. The one thing that some users have encountered, however, is that they do have quite a lot of condensation from the ears actually being retained in the ear cups, and that's even after using them only for an hour or two.
Oh,
So that's a little bit concerning. I don't know if I'd want to use someone else's headphones after that, but anyway. The sound quality apparently is pretty good, but honestly, most people are saying that they're very overpriced for what you get, and I would tend to agree. I might actually talk about this a bit more in the next main episode, because I'm going to test them out this week.
So I'm confused. You said they're good bang for their buck, and then you say they're
They're
too much
reasonable,
money,
but
so which is it?
They're good. They're good sounding. They're decent sounding headphones, but I think you can definitely, well, from what I've read anyway, you could definitely do better with a.
They're decent
slightly
sounding
cheaper pair.
headphones, but are they decent sounding for $549?
Well, I wouldn't be spending $550 on them. No. But I actually know quite a few people that have, which is amazing. I'm just astounded.
But I think those people would buy anything that had the Apple tax on it,
absolutely.
and anything that had the Apple name. So
I would agree.
I think just about most normal, sane people would not.
No.
But who
So
knows?
anyway, I'll report back on that next main episode next week, and I plan to go down and have a look at these midweek. So I will judge for myself what I think of them. But I don't think I will think they're good value for money, but we'll see.
Yeah, and we've got a couple of articles on these headphones in the show notes, so check those out for sure.
Yeah, the next article is basically the warning about the moisture condensation, so that'll be interesting. I hope you get a decent warranty with these headphones. But then an article about WhatsApp versus Telegram versus Signal. I think they're basically they sort of, there's these sorts of stories come out every 6 months or so, basically talking about the privacy side of it, what you get out of each app, what you don't get out of each app. It's stuff that's been covered before, and I don't think it's generally going to change that Signal's probably your most secure, WhatsApp's your most insecure, and Telegram falls in the middle there nicely. So it's usually the way it works.
My only thing is, I wish people would understand with Telegram that you're not actually encrypted unless you use the secret chat.
Yeah.
That's
Not
really
end-to-end
true.
encrypted, rather.
They are, and the messages are end-to-end encrypted.
Yeah, the Telegram messages are.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
I thought there was only end-to-end encrypted on the secret chat side, but
No.
if it...
No, if you read the thing above, it actually says that you're encrypted once you join something. So you would assume if they're telling the truth, then you should be
Right.
encrypted.
But
No,
I
no,
thought
all-
that meant it
all
was
messages
encrypted
are.
on the server side.
All messages are encrypted in Telegram, whether you're using a secret chat or not.
Yeah. The only thing that you're basically getting, Signal is definitely offering you more robust security, but you're definitely getting a reasonable amount of security on Telegram.
Yep. Now, this next article is pretty
yes.
cool about Apple and their executives, and seems
Getting
like
lots
their
of
bonuses
cashola.
are being tied to their performance, especially in terms of accessibility and their other core values, which is really good.
I wonder how much, if they're getting a huge bonus this year, Nimmer, in terms of their accessibility side of things. I wonder if we could get somebody from Apple to come
I was
online.
wondering that. I was also wondering who do they measure up against, or how do they figure that out? Did Apple do well? Do the same executives
Well,
that
yeah.
are they the same ones that choose whether or not they've done well? Like do they have a third party that comes in and says you've done well, or
Well, it's funny that they don't detail that information here, and there's
Right.
definitely no inside scoop as to how that's all done. So, yes.
Someone audits, maybe an Apple employee.
it's kind of one of those feel good articles. Like, I like it in
Yeah.
principle. I do. I think it's great, but I just wonder, who's making that decision.
Well, it's things that we don't know about, and it's very open to, who the heck would know? You know what I mean? Unless you work within those walls. So, it's a feel-good article, which is cool. We need
The next article
feel-good
seems
articles.
to have a broken link, but make sure that we get that fixed. The Google phone app is going to be possibly recording conversations from unknown callers.
Yeah, so apparently any of those lovely little spam calls that you get, Google is planning to record those, and I guess I don't really know what the purpose of that would be, except to, I guess, decide for themselves that it is actually spam, unless they like to listen to such phone calls. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
rather interesting. I'm not really sure, but
But it's one of those things that Apple already. Why do I keep saying Apple? Google already does a lot of recording of things and listening in on things. It's just another step, I guess. They want to listen into unsolicited phone calls and stuff like that. And I don't know. As long as it improves the app, I suppose, in actually blocking spam, it does a relatively good job of that, but not a perfect job, I guess. But we'll see. Interesting to see how that all goes out.
And then we have a final article here. Looks like Kurt want to talk about Qualcomm.
Yeah, so Qualcomm is introducing a new Snapdragon 480 modem that is going to bring 5G to budget smartphones.
5G, doesn't that stuff cause like cancer and all kinds of other things?
Causes corona, I heard. But yeah, so
By the way, listeners, all that stuff is fake news. It's false. Don't.
Yes, that's right. Don't storm the White House. It's okay.
oh my gosh. We don't want to get banned from Facebook. But no, so right now 5G is still a relatively new emerging technology, and it is you have access to it on the new iPhones, upper end, mid-range Android phones, but up until now, it's not really been on the lower end. And so that's, hopefully going to bring 5G to more people on more phones.
Yeah, it looks like we've got that OnePlus Nord N10, whatever that thing is coming out too.
the new
and
one.
That
Yeah.
is actually coming out in the States for 180
Yeah,
bucks.
you guys are getting it. Wow.
So 5G phone for 180 bucks. No, it's not going to work on millimeter wave. It's not really gonna be any meaningful, provide anything
Well, you won't be
meaningful.
using it on Verizon, I suppose, will you?
Well, you will on their low band, I suppose, but
Yeah, I guess.
we don't know what the bands are that it'll have. But certainly, it's not going to have the meaningful 5G.
Sadly, 5G in this country is a joke, so
Yeah.
hopefully that actually improves. But at the moment, they have lovely, fluffy ads about how fast it is, but it really isn't.
Yeah.
Pretty useless. So, anyway, we'll see how that technology evolves. It can only get better, I suppose.
One more step, I guess.
Okay. Well, we're going to go on to our main section, and we'll talk about websites. Now, maybe it's good to do a go around and just talk about things that we do to navigate a website, and how do we know a website's accessible. Now, for me, one of the most important aspects of navigating a website is to know what elements, what landmarks, what links, what headings are on page. And with JAWS and Orca and Linux, NVDA, whatever, a lot of voiceover, it'll give you a description. When you load a website, it'll say 502 links, 15 headings, whatever it might be. That sort of gives you an idea of what elements are on a page. Now, some people, and I blame the instructors for this, and the way they use the computer, they go to a website and they just hit tab. Tab, 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 tab. It's my least favorite key on the keyboard. If I could, I would smash the damn tab key. Hate that key. The problem with hitting tab is you're never going to discover all the elements are on a website. And you're never going to discover the text that it's on a website. So you're going to think that you're missing things, even though those things are actually there. Another problem that you might run into is some screen readers will try to guess where the beginning of the content is, but that means you're missing the entire top of the website. So the top navigation bar. So for example, on the Blind Tech Guy's website, at the very top, there's a number of links for episodes, to subscribe, that kind of thing. If you skip over that part, you just go straight to the content, then you're not even going to know those things are there. So it's just really good, especially for an unfamiliar website, to really go through that entire website and figure out what is there and what is not there. And that might be getting a list of your links, or navigating by headings, or using the landmarks that are there. Landmarks are really interesting too. Maybe we can do a whole nother section on landmarks. I think a lot of users don't even use them, but they can really help you navigate parts of a website very quickly, such as the navigation bar or the main section of a website. So those are kind of the little tips that I have. I don't know, what do you do, Marco, when you go to a website?
Yeah, I'll generally I actually do use landmarks quite a lot, Nim, and I use headings, obviously, and links. They would be my main things. And the other thing that I actually do use a lot, especially if I know, like I've been to that website many, many times before, is I'll use buttons. A lot of things are labeled with buttons if you're looking for, unmute button or whatever the website happens to be. If you, especially in JAWS, use the B for that. And I think the most important thing when people are building websites is to make sure that you put headings in. A lot of users use headings to find certain things, and if you haven't got them in there, it definitely makes it a lot harder, I think.
Yeah, headings are definitely good. What do you do, Kurt?
Start with headings. The other thing I will do is, if something seems to be difficult, or there's a lot of unlabeled things, and it's, reading out graphic tags that aren't actually labeled links, occasionally I'll switch screen readers. I have JAWS and NVDA on my computer both. And, sometimes one will, for some reason, read difficult content on a site more than another. The other thing I'll do, if I know a site a little bit, and this is after the first initial exploration, but probably the thing I use most is the virtual find. but that doesn't help right away. But once I know a site a little bit, that saves me so much time. But probably
I have to say as well, Kurt, that in terms of when you talk about switching, what I do, and I've found that certain browsers perform better as well. For example, Firefox is really good. If you're struggling to read something in Chrome or Brave or something else, Firefox can sometimes label things a lot more easily for some reason. You get more information out of it occasionally on various websites. So it might be worth also considering to switch browsers as well whenever you need to.
Yeah, I call these tools in the toolbox. These are tools in your toolbox.
These are things that you have.
And the more tools that you have access to, the better. If you only know one tool and you only stick to one tool, then you're going to find a lot more things that are hard to use, painful, inaccessible. There are things with JAWS that I absolutely find very painful, and so I turn on NVDA. There are things that just will not work with NVDA, so I might turn on Narrator.
Yep.
And, things that may not work as well in Chrome due to bugs or whatever else. Firefox is really good at adhering to web standards.
Yeah. They are excellent, and especially labeling buttons as well. Some buttons that you find aren't labeled in a Chromium browser will be labeled on Firefox, so it is handy.
Right. Now, the other thing that I've noticed sometimes is occasionally, if I don't have a Braille display hooked up, I'll hook it up, because I've had a few times where, I'm going through items in a combo box or something, and my screen reader is not reading it, but if I look at my Braille display, it's showing the content there.
Speech locks up or something. So if you have a Braille display, you have access to that. That always helps.
Yep, agree. So these are just things for anybody out there, whether you be a basic, intermediary, or advanced user, to think about. Just like you said, Nimba, the more tools you can have, it doesn't matter if you like a particular tool or not. It's better to have it on your system. How much room does it really take up? It really doesn't take up a huge amount of space. So just have it there just in case you ever need it. I mean, I've got JAWS and NVDA. Occasionally, one or the other will lock up. You open up NVDA or you open up JAWS and it'll work. You can at least get around it rather than having to do a hard reset or something silly like that, which isn't good for your computer anyway. So just have this stuff on your computer. It doesn't take up much space.
Yep.
And it'll save you a lot of hassle, potentially.
All right. Well, Marco's going to do a little demo for us of something to do with the weather.
Yeah, the reason I'm bringing this one up here, and besides it being hot, is that there's been a number of people asking, and this seems to be one of these questions, I guess, that comes up.
I think we'll always get this question.
Quite often. Quite often. So this app, I've had this app for many years, and I've used it. Look, I'm not really too worried about what weather app I have, but this one just seems to work, and it works well on both platforms, Android and iOS. Now, unfortunately, for anyone outside Australia, I don't think you can use this app. I believe this is purely for Australians only. But I guess we have a decent number of Australian listeners. So this app is called Willy Weather, which many people would have heard of from this country. So
Did
we'll just
Willie
do a quick...
write it, or
well, I don't know. I actually don't know what his name is. I'm pretty sure it's not Willie, and there is some explanation somewhere on his website that explains why it's called Willy Weather.
Maybe
but I don't know what it is.
I don't know.
Maybe, it might be that way inclined. Who knows? So let's open it up.
1429. Home button. Long press home. Google Assistant.
Open Willy Weather.
Space.
Okay.
Space. Willy Weather. Google
All
Assistant.
right, so we're in
Tap to dismiss Assistant. Weather.
Willy Weather. And the first thing that I notice every time that I open up this app, and it's quite apparent with a lot of weather apps, is they're not always very easy to read. You usually have a lot of unlabeled buttons or just crap everywhere, and it's kind of hard to get the information you want. I find with this app it's always pretty easy. So
Open draw button. Temperature. Button super plus button.
we're at the
open
draw button, which is at the top of the screen. We'll go through all those options afterwards, but we'll just scroll through the main screen here.
Weather. Locations. Warnings unavailable. Settings. Presses image Saturday, Jan 16, cloudy 12:19. Presses image Sunday, Jan 17, foggy cloudy 30. Presses image Monday, Jan 11, 34.7 degrees C. Feels like 31.9 degrees C. Hot. Foggy cloudy 20:37.
So it gives you the information quite easily. It's right there and available to you. It's 34, feels like 30.
Chris's image Tuesday, Jan 12,
But the other
cloudy
thing I
16,
like
23.
is it gives you very easily what the next few days are going to be like. You don't have to muck about and look for it. It's
Chris's
right
image
there.
Wednesday, Chris's image Thursday, Chris's image Friday, Jan 15, Chris's image Saturday, Jan 6, Chris's image Sunday, 1 day radio button checked.
And you can set it to however you want. So if you just want it for 1 day,
3 day radio button
you have it
unchecked.
for 3 days.
5 day radio button unchecked. Temperature. Button supergraphs button. Temperature forecast. Checkbox checked. Temperature real time Melbourne Olympic Park 9.2 kilometers away.
It tells you where it's getting the temperature from, which is about 9 k's away from where I'm
Checkbox
at.
checked. Issued today at 11:08 am.
Tells you when it was issued.
Open drawer button.
Now, if you go through the open drawer, and this is the cool part about this app, if you want to have certain bits of information or you want to get access to it easily, it's right here.
Rainfall unchecked. Weather checked.
So we've got set to weather.
Rainfall unchecked.
If we go to rainfall, for example, so you double tap on that.
Rainfall. Open drawer button. Rainfall. Locations. Warnings unavailable. Settings. Glen Huntley, Melbourne. Vic. Today 0.0 millimeters. Last hour 0.0 millimeters recorded at Melbourne Olympic Park 9.2 kilometers away. 1 day radio button checked. 3 day radio button
And I've
unchecked.
only got it checked to today. So it easily tells you what the expectation of
button.
certain things are. So other than that, we
Wind
have
unchecked. Rainfall checked. Wind unchecked.
wind. If you double tap on that.
Wind. Open drawer button. Wind. Locations. Warnings unavailable. Settings. Glen Huntley, Melbourne. Vic. Current speed 37.0 kilometers / h caret NW. Gust 44.5 kilometers / h recorded at St Kilda Harbour Royal Melbourne Yacht Squadron 7.5 kilometers away.
Wow,
So
that's
it's
windy.
easy. It is
Wow,
windy
yeah.
today. Yeah. So it gives you the information easily. It's just presented in a nice way. You don't get button and all that crap
Glen
and
current speed 37.0.
hard to
Open
find
drawer button.
anything. The other options you get,
Wind checked.
and they all display nicely, so we won't go through them all. You get wind,
Moon unchecked.
you get moon,
Tides unchecked.
tides,
Swell unchecked.
swell,
Sun unchecked.
sun,
UV unchecked.
UV.
Space.
So all sorts of information. If you go
UV
to
on sun unchecked.
sun, for example,
Sunday. Open drawer button. Sunday. Warnings unavailable. Settings. Glen Huntley, Melbourne. Sunset 6 hours 12 minutes. Last night 6 hours 43 minutes. Monday, Jan 11:05 40 am 06:10 am 20:44 p.m. 21:15 p.m. First light sunrise sunset last night.
so it tells you all you need to know: sunset, sunrise, first light.
Tuesday, Jan 12:05 41 am 06:11 am 20:44 p.m. 21:15 p.m. First light sunrise sunset last night.
So it gives you all the information, just a nice, easy to navigate situation. It seems to be relatively accurate. It certainly matches up with Google. And it just works really nicely. I just wish that there, in terms of an international app, I just wish there was an app like this internationally that was just nice and simple. I mean, all I want out of a weather app is for it to be easy to use. So this one, for anyone that's living in Australia, works very well on both Android and iOS. I'm currently testing it out on a S10 Plus, but it does work equally as well on iOS. It's free. It's also ad-free, which is really cool. And it
Research
just
button.
works. So that is a very quick demonstration of Willy Weather. Anyone living in Australia, I would suggest you get it. It's just a nice, easy app to navigate with and to use.
So here in the States, I know Weather Gods is big in iOS land. And
Yes. Yep.
it's a pretty decent app. And that's on iOS. There's also, just remember that you can always ask your assistant or look on your phone's home screen for whatever app, weather app or widget that it comes with. It might be the Google,
Yeah.
or it might be the Samsung.
Oh, and
On
that's
my
the other
home
thing I
screen,
meant to
have
say
the
about
Samsung weather.
That's the other thing I meant to say about this Willy Weather. You can also set up widgets on your home screen so you can just easily find the information there as well. I should have added that in earlier,
Yeah.
which is kind of useful.
Well, like the Samsung weather on my device works very well. It gives you the current temperature.
Yeah.
It gives you the current conditions. It gives you the wind. It gives you sunrise, sunset times as well. And you can set up multiple locations to be tracked. And, and that's just the basic Samsung app that comes on a Samsung device. Of course, there's, like I said, the Google one. LG's got something, their own widget, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Just a lot of
Everyone
stuff
has
comes
their
already
own,
on your device, and it's generally pretty accessible. There are tons of these things, but some of them got taken away when Apple bought out the dark sky, because any dark sky used to recommend that on Android, and another one called Storm Shield that used to
Storm
use dark
Shield.
sky.
Yeah.
A bunch of these apps that used to use dark sky kind of went away,
Yeah.
which is really unfortunate.
That
But
was
there
a
are other
shame.
weather apps. The Wonderground is a weather app, and again, some of them you'll have more success with others in terms of accessibility. The ones I just said are pretty accessible. So
Now, I used to
definitely check
use
those out.
Wonderground NIM, and I ended up getting rid of it because it did become rather painful to use on the Android side. I'm not sure if in the last 6 months or so it's gotten any better, but it used to be
Yeah,
my
they have
go-to
updated
as well.
the interface, but
Yeah, good. It was becoming annoying. And the other thing also about Wonderground is you had to pay for it every year. I personally don't see why I would want to pay for a weather app.
that's strange. I
Yeah,
don't.
that
I don't
seems
think
a
I
bit
paid for.
redundant.
I don't
Yeah,
think
no,
I
well,
paid
we
for
definitely
Weather
had to pay
Underground.
for it here. Absolutely. I think it was something like $2 or $3 or something. It wasn't much, but they,
I don't think I've ever paid for it. I don't know.
yeah. So it got the kish, and I just went back to using this one because it just works. Look, I don't know. A lot of people get very funny about weather apps, and they're very, I don't know, particular about all these things. I just want a weather app that tells me the temperature, the wind speed, and rainfall, generally.
Hey, if you have
You
a
know.
weather app that you like to use, let us know either in any of our Telegram, Facebook, WhatsApp groups, or in an email list. Let us know, or just email us. Fill out our contact form, and let us know which weather app you prefer. And if you'd like to demo that for us on the podcast, definitely send us a recording, or you can come on live and do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If you have one that does something that we don't know about, and yeah, feel free to reach out.
That's right. All right, so we'll talk a little bit about Linux accessibility. Linux accessibility, I've gotten a couple of questions on that in the past, and some people wanted to know what was accessible and what's not accessible, and what can you do, what can't you do, and all this and that. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. I don't want to put everybody to sleep. We had the last question was an email of an individual, and this is sort of the email section as well, but the individual wanted to know about getting Orca installed on a device, on a Linux operating system that does not already have it installed. So Linux is kind of sort of the OS for geeks, right? You have to be willing to play around. If Orca is not already installed, then it depends on the platform that you're using. So with Linux, there's like Arch Linux, there's Ubuntu that's based off of Debian, there's Fedora, it's based off of like Red Hat. Just depends on the flavor of Linux that you have installed. In general, though, to install it, you're going to have to, if it's available in a package manager that you have access to, then you can just install it using that package manager. So if it's a Debian based one, apt-get install Orca, or if it's DNF or whatever. In any case, Linux accessibility is pretty robust, and there are quite a number of users and a number of mailing lists for Linux users. The screen reader for the graphical user interface, which is what most people are used to using, is called Orca. And it allows you to control your machine and access apps and access the internet using Firefox or Chrome, whatever. Get on Zoom calls, whatever it is that you like to do, and it works quite well. It uses eSpeak as sort of the default synthesizer, although you can use other synthesizers and you can purchase others as well, such as Eloquence or Vocalizer. You can actually purchase that for Linux. And Braille is typically done by BRLTTY. And there are a number of screen readers that will work in the console, so in the command line. So you can use like a Fenria or something like that in the command line. There are a couple of blindness distributions. There's Coconut Linux that is on the scene, and developers asked us to try that distro out, and I have played around with that. Coconut Linux is pretty good. There's also another one that I'm not really remembering the name of at the moment. I'll try to find that, put that in the show notes. But there's a couple of these blindness specific distros that already package everything, put it in one installer. The problem with those is they always come and go, and they tend to die off. They don't get enough backing. It's just usually one person that decides to do it. But the main distributions of Linux are accessible. So for example, I run Fedora. It's accessible. And you can make your Linux look different. So, for example, they call them like desktops. So you can have a Mate desktop or a GNOME desktop or whatever, and it's like different. It's sort of like a launcher on your Android phone. It can make your device look and behave very differently. Some of these are more accessible than others, but like Mate is very accessible. The GNOME is accessible. LXDE is getting there. There's a number of these that are pretty accessible. And it's sort of up to you which one you run. As I said, I run Fedora, but I know a number of people run Ubuntu, which is very popular. Another one that people run, Debian, very popular as well. So it's really up to you. But again, if you're looking at Linux, then you kind of have to be able to read documentation and explore and expect that things probably may not work and that you might have to find a workaround. So it's kind of like frankly, like the Android version of computing, except to the more extreme level, and that's for all users. It's sort of like the Android version. And what I mean by like Android is very usable, but especially in terms of accessibility, you have to be able to find workarounds because things are not as well documented and things don't always work the way they're supposed to. And certain things don't work at all. In Linux, this is more, it's not that things don't work, it's that you really have to find the workarounds, and I'm not just talking about accessibility, I'm talking about in general usage. Accessibility usually is fine, but like if you don't want to find specific drivers for things that may or may not work, or if you don't want to find different workarounds to get something working, then maybe Linux may not be for you. But if you like to have a little fun, or you like to have full control over your devices, maybe Linux is something worth checking out. If you guys have any more questions on that, definitely you could join our mailing list and ask questions on there, or join any of the Linux mailing lists as well that are out there. There's one specifically dedicated to Orca, and people will be definitely able to help out. Now, it is sort of expected in Linux land especially that you will do a little bit of your own research before you ask questions. So some of the people on some of these mailing lists may be not very friendly if you're just coming on there asking some very basic questions. So just be aware of that. Yes. So just be aware of that. You should be willing to do your own research and come prepared to discuss the fact that you did your own research before asking questions. And
which I actually don't mind,
Nemo. Documentation. No, I don't mind that either.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that we look at. A
lot of blindy lists.
Oh, sure. We look at a lot of lists, though, and we do. And I know that we probably privately complain to each other about it, but there are a lot of lists where you sort of get a lot of emails and you think, geez, you could have looked that up in Google in 5 seconds. But I don't know. Yeah.
Anyway, that's Linux. And by the way, I am using Linux, and actually I'm doing this stream in Linux. So there you go.
Very good.
All right, and then Kurt is going to talk a little bit about, this is the Did You Know section. He's going to talk a little bit about Blindo.
All right. So I got to unlock my phone here. It died in the middle of the stream.
Now, what is Blindo?
So Blindo, I call it Blindo. I don't know. What it is it is basically a database of user-submitted labels for all sorts of apps on Android. So I don't know. When I switched over to Android, one of the things that was most jarring for me was I'd download an app from the Play Store, a music app like Tidal or Amazon Music or, anything really. There was a really good chance it would be full of unlabeled buttons. Now, there's things you can do about that in TalkBack. If there is an unlabeled button, you can, as long as you are on that button, you can open up the Actions menu and add your own label if you've got a sighted person with you or IRA or something like that to help you know, or you've played around with the app and know enough to know kind of what the button does. But that takes time and it's a little annoying and you can't always tell. Another thing you can do to help with this problem is you open up the TalkBack settings, go into verbosity, and make sure, and it's not toggled on by default, but there is a setting that says speak element ID for unlabeled elements. Turning that on will sometimes help, but not always. You'll still be left with a lot of apps that say unlabeled button, unlabeled button, unlabeled button. And another tool in that toolbox is this app called Blindo. So what I'm open this up here. Turn my phone up here. Sorry, I don't have quite the audio setup Marco does here. Alright, so we're gonna... Google does not always reliably open this up in the assistant. Oh, there's Blindo.
Double tap to activate. Actions available. Use swipe. Open navigation drawer.
Alright, so I'm just going through the app here. It says open navigation drawer. Home. Filter.
WhatsApp Messenger. Communication.
Then it goes through a list of the most popular apps that have unlabeled buttons.
WhatsApp Messenger. Communication. 1 of 50. And list. 50 items. 3.9 stars with 22 ratings. 77 labels packs.
So you can go into,
WhatsApp Messenger, communication, heading.
Let's say to get a label pack for that
Details.
one.
Navigate up. WhatsApp communication. New rating. Selected. Details. Packs. Tab. 2 of 3.
So details,
Selected. Details. Tab. Packs.
packs,
Comments. Tab.
and
3 of 3.
comments are the little
Double
tabs
tap to
here
activate.
under the WhatsApp app.
Total. Out of list. 80%. 3 UI. 80%. 3.9 stars. Progress bar.
Now this is just people rating the app already. It's not, so they're saying of people who have used WhatsApp without the labels installed, they're giving it a 3.9 rating in accessibility. I would personally go a little lower. I don't like WhatsApp, but I guess it is usable.
Total. Comments. Tab. Selected. Detail. New rating. Out of list. Communication.
So I'll go under
Selected.
packs.
Tab. 2 of 3. The packs. Selected. Comments. Tab. Percent Salguero. December 31st. 2020. Language. Spanish. 1 of 10. And list. 10 items. Downloads. 200. Manolo Rodriguez. December 19th. 2020. Language. Spanish. 2 of 10.
So these are all Spanish language.
Downloads. 71. Labels.
That is 71 labels to
Juanita
download.
Turan Martins, December. Carlos Dave. Downloads. Jeffrey Bach. November 29th. 2020. Language. Portuguese. Download.
So there's
Warren
all
Barr.
these label
Download.
packs
San
here.
Juanita Turan. Download. Manolo. Download. Percent. Comment. Select. Details. New rating. Out of communication. WhatsApp Messenger.
Which can be a little daunting, and the free subscription does not give you a real way to filter just by language that I've found. So I have, though,
Message. Can. WhatsApp
paid
message.
for
Navigate
the...
up. Double tap to activate.
It's wow, it's not $149 a month. It's $1.49 US dollars a month for the premium
Jeez, I was getting a bit
subscription.
scared there. Wow.
Wonder how many rupees that would be.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of millions.
Navigate up. Button.
All right, so what I'm going to do here, the premium subscription does have
Open navigation.
some other really useful tools that they want to get you to pay their that little bit of money every month. So I did just get the premium subscription.
Kurt Manwaring. View profile.
I opened up the navigation menu here on the top.
Sign out. Home. Double my apps. Message. Telegram. Home. My apps.
So you
Double
can
tap to
go
activate.
My Apps. You can go under there, and it will show you all of your apps that they have label packs for, so you don't have to scroll through the list of all the most popular apps.
My labels.
My
Tap to
labels.
activate.
That's any label packs that you have uploaded, or that's where you would upload a label pack to the database so that you can contribute and not just be taking away other people's work.
My comments.
My
Double
comments.
Tap to Smart Labels Installer.
Now this is what I'm really interested in here. It's called Smart Labels Installer.
Smart Labels
And
Installer.
what that does
Double tap to activate.
is it will automatically look at all your apps, see what apps have unlabeled buttons that there are user-submitted packs for, and then it will, if those user-submitted packs are not in English,
Message. Tell my
it
comments.
will... Wow, I really should have muted my Telegram notifications here. But what it will do is it will download labels for any of your unlabeled buttons, and then if they're not in English, it will, I believe, use Google Translate to translate them.
Smart Labels Installer. Double tap to activate.
So I'll go into this Smart Labels installer.
Open navigation door button. Smart Labels Installer. Prefer my labels. Off. Switch for prefer my labels.
Now, prefer my labels. What that does,
Swipe up, then right to view.
so if you have anything that has unlabeled buttons, but you've already made your own custom labels, switching that setting over to on will make sure that it leaves the custom labels that you've already put in here.
Prefer off.
So I'm going to
Switch
switch
for
that to
prefer my labels.
on.
Prefer off. Switch
Come
for
on,
prefer-
Samsung.
on.
There we go.
Translate. Off. Switch for translate.
So
Double tap to
translate,
toggle
that'll
labels
make
available.
sure
Use swipe up, then right to
if
view.
the only labels it has for apps that have unlabeled buttons on your device are in Portuguese or Spanish, then it will translate those.
Off. Switch for translate.
So I'll turn that on.
On. Sly analyze your installed apps and generate a custom labels pack for you, selecting the best labels for you, trying to cover all the unlabeled buttons in your device. You can translate labels from other languages to increment the number of possibilities. Also, you can prefer your backup and complete the missing labels with our smart installer.
Okay, so we're going to try this. I'm going to hit the start
Double
button.
tap to activate. Continue. Found 323 apps. Search for labels in English, preferring my backup over other packs and including translations. Do you want to continue?
Yeah, let's hit continue here.
Double tap
I've
to
got a lot of
activate.
apps on my phone, obviously.
Found 3. Install now. Button. Non-native object has no attribute group. On.
That's a
Switch
little
for
weird.
Translate. On. Switch. Prefer. Open navigation. Smart labels installer. Prefer my labels. On. Translate. On. Non-native object has no attribute group.
Okay,
Install now. Button. Disabled.
so I guess it's still
Non-native
looking
object has
here.
no attribute group. Install. Non-native. Install now. Non-net on. Switch for translate. Disabled. Translate. On. Prefer my smart labels installer.
Let's see what it's
Open
doing here.
navigation door. On. Install now. Button. Disabled. Non-native object. On. Switch for translate. Disabled.
Okay, that's
On.
interesting. It was
Smart
looking at
open.
all this fine earlier.
Open navigation door. Menu.
Um,
My labels. My apps.
so I'll have to figure out what's going on there. But
Open navigation
I'll
door.
just open up my
My
apps.
Asa service. com.samsung.asa service. Ant plus dud. Ant plus house. R doodle. R emoji. R emoji edit. R emoji stick. R zone.
So these are all the
Accessibility,
Samsung
sound.
apps
Elvis on display.
that have labels.
Android. Application app. Assisted dialing. Awful tap hack. Authenticate. Auto hotspot. Auto doodle. Autofill. Automation. Gaijin. Badge provider.
Now, I do
com.sec.
wish
Battery guardian.
that they had a
Gaijin,
search
who's
box.
Gaijin?
It's some Samsung thing, I guess.
Bixby routines. Com.samsung.ant. Bixby vision. Bixby voice. Bixby voice stuff. Bixby dict. Bixby.
I do wish that they had a search, you know, a search box here. So that's a little annoying. It's not the most well-designed thing in the world.
Camera. Cameralizer. Camera. Com.sec.android.app.camera. 55 of 323.
Okay, so I'm going to open up camera here.
Details. Navigate camera. Com.sec. New rating. Select packs. Comments. Packs. Tab. 2 of 3.
Go into packs.
Select comment. List. Out. Navigate up. New rating. Select comment. List. Out of list. Navigate up.
Okay.
Open navigation drawer. Button.
So I guess there weren't any label
Apps.
packs for
Open
that one.
navigation drawer. Button.
Um,
Double menu. Premium. Kurt Manwaring. Home. My apps. My labels. My comments.
So it does need some work, obviously, but I did find, for example, Amazon Music had a lot of unlabeled buttons. I went through a list of all my apps and was able to get Amazon Music's labeled. I installed some for Facebook Messenger. So it does work, but you do, the way it's set up, you do have to go through either a list of all your apps. That smart label feature looks pretty cool, but I guess it's a little buggy because earlier I got it to open. Not quite sure what the issue is now. But, so there are apps that have labels submitted, but that's just one of the tools to add for unlabeled buttons on your Android device. It's obviously not enough by itself, but I have had a few apps that it's, really saved me on. And then if you have made labels for whatever apps you have, you could submit them here because obviously it needs more. It doesn't have the community engagement that I wish it did, but it's one more tool in the list of options we have here.
Are there labels for Tinder?
there are probably labels for Tinder, yes.
Does
Like, would you
Tinder have a lot of unlabeled buttons?
I don't know.
We'd have to.
Try it out. Go ahead and download
There you go.
it. Kurt, try it
Download
out.
Tinder. Yeah, try it out. See if you can label it. See if commentary labels Tinder. They might have shares in it.
Now,
or something.
does commentary automatically label buttons?
It does, yeah. There's a similar to Talkback. It's got its own thing that it does it with.
But it does it automatically, yeah?
You do have to turn it on. There's elements that you have to turn on. Same as Talkback, like you have your, like you mentioned earlier, the label thing. You've got to
Okay.
turn that on.
Because the talkback one does not seem like it works.
It certainly does work.
100%
It just
reliably.
doesn't.
it
It's
works.
not 100%, but
It's
neither
not
is-
great.
It's
but
a lot better than
they're-
nothing.
None of them are great. I mean, they're not, they work to a
Is
point.
commentaries about on the same level?
But pretty much.
Okay.
The iOS one probably works better than
That's the
anything
best
that's
one.
on the Android one.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, Kurt, thank you for that, mate. Of
course.
Very, very cool little demonstration. And I believe, Nimmer, we're up to the favourite point of the show where we get to hear from all the wonderful listeners. And I wonder if Nimmer's got a love letter this week for any of us.
Well, let's see. I think I do.
Very good.
Let's see here.
Oh, by the way, Kurt, did you notice that Telegram was buzzing away there?
I did. Was that you?
Yeah, there was a lot of messages coming through. I don't know who was sending all that. It was craziness.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Maybe that tells me for my next demo I gotta mute my notifications. That might help.
Dear.
I'll have to go check.
By the way, it's worth noting that you got a lot of messages, and I don't know that I had much to do with it, so don't blame me.
And just to remind listeners as well, Nimmer, that our email address has been updated recently. You would have noticed if you looked at the website or the show notes, but it's now contact@blindtechguys.com, which is
That's
very
right.
cool.
No longer.
Not
blind
contact
tech
us,
guys.
just contact. Yes.
Well, I'm not sure that many of these emails are really all that appropriate. There's a couple of Jesus ones. And
Oh boy.
Oh, wow.
Some
Hello,
of them $10
sir,
million
good sir.
ones. Hello, good sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So no real emails this week. Jeez, that's
No
a
real
first.
emails. Yeah.
Wow. What's going on, listeners?
Now,
Goodness.
we did get one person that submitted a form, and there was
Yes.
absolutely nothing in the form.
That was very good, wasn't it?
That's useful feedback right
So
there.
if you'd like to submit feedback, listeners, remember you have to either check any of the boxes or you have to actually type in the boxes. You have to do something.
Well, that would help. In fact, I suppose none of those boxes are required, are they? So I guess you could just submit an empty form. Very good.
That's exactly
Yes.
what they've done. They submitted
Oh,
an empty
brilliant.
form. Yeah.
They must have been thinking a lot about the show, I suppose.
Yes. Now, we truly do appreciate any feedback that you have for us about us, the presenters, or about the podcast itself. Any content that you'd like to listen to, anything that you didn't find valuable, or anything that you want to provide in addition, or if you want to come on with us, talk with us, or if you want to provide us with a recording, you're more than welcome to do that. Email at blindtechguys.com is our, I think that's
Contact
our
at Blind Tech
contact at
Guys.
blindtechguys.com. I think email works too.
Email.
Contact at blindtechguys.com. We're starting to be like that other podcast.
Yeah, that's why I said it's not contact us. Just
We
contact.
just have to put in the show notes for inquiries use one and for questions use the other.
Is that like the old adage of, press 1 for this, press 2 for that,
Anyway, yeah, so contact at blindtechguys.com. You can still email the other one as well. That's fine. Or just use our contact form on the website.
Yeah, if that's easier for you, why not?
And you definitely look forward to that feedback. You can also, of course, join us on Facebook, tweet, and look for Blind Tech Guys. Either it's Facebook group or on Twitter. Follow us on there. We do retweet tech articles and stuff throughout the week. So if you're interested in stuff that we talk about on here in just a tweet form, then follow us on there.
And I do
of
get
course-
quite a lot of questions, Nimmer, about people wanting the WhatsApp and Telegram group, and it's very easy to find on our website. Everything is there. All
Yep.
the
Right
ways
at
you
the
can
bottom
join
of
us
the
are there.
page, all the links are there. So join us on Telegram, WhatsApp, and actually they're on the bottom of the show notes too. So
Yeah, you can't miss it. So,
Yep.
and the other thing that we haven't mentioned today, of course, listeners and all of us on here, is that if you do find value in the podcast, please consider donating. It does help us to pay all the bills that we get, and we get a few of those with our StreamYard, with our podcast host, and the domain, of course. So if you do find value in the show, we would love it if you would donate. And besides that, obviously, liking and sharing out what we produce so that we can spread the love, so to speak, and
That's right.
reach more people.
Thomas has a compliment for you, Kurt. He says you sound as good. You sound good like last week. So keep
Very
it up.
Yeah.
nice.
Very good.
I don't sound sexy this time, though, huh?
Oh, well, you just never know. You might get
Thomas
some
Chan.
further feedback later.
Thomas Chan also wants to know contact email wise like the other group. Well, you asked Thomas, and I'll tell you, it's because when they promote their podcasts, they have for questions email one email address. I think it's contact us at whatever
Yeah.
it is, and then they in the same on the very next line it says for inquiries email this other email address. And so every time I see that, I wonder what is the difference between a question. And
Yeah,
an
I was wondering the same thing. And I would have thought they were both the same. But yeah, I think contact just works well. Contact at blindtechguys.com, and we'll get back to you in due course. And if it's something that we need to get back to you straight away, Nimmer or I will answer you
That's right.
immediately.
Yep, otherwise, we'll just read it out on the podcast. But
Yeah.
also, if you're a developer and you're catching this and you'd like to come on our podcast to talk about an app that you're working on or updates to an app or anything else, you're more than welcome to do that. We do have individuals from SuperSense coming on.
Indeed, that's coming up in a couple of weeks, which will be great.
Oh, very
And
nice.
We're also working on
Yeah.
getting people from Bad Maps. Good Maps.
Yes, good maps as well, and as well as that, we're hopefully going to have another developer come on to talk about a couple of innovations that they're doing with accessibility over in Europe as well. We've got to follow up with a developer, Nimmer, that we were speaking to around Christmas time. He's quite keen to come on and talk about the app that he's developing as well.
Yep.
So we've got a few
of
good
those
interviews coming up.
developers, But if you'd like to come on as a developer, then you're more than welcome to do that. And we look forward to speaking to those individuals from Good Maps and from SuperSense and the other guy.
Indeed.
All right, we thank you guys for joining us for this week, and join us on Thursday, U.S. time, for the Samsung Unpacked event.
Ooh.
We'll be going live. At least one of us or two of us will be.
And
So
it'll be
join
at
us
7
on that
p.m.,
day.
which will be very cool. And we'll definitely be chatting about the, well, I think it'll be a good event. Well, we hope it will be. They've certainly promoted the crapola out of it, that's for sure.
Well, I'm excited for
So-
those new modems, and we're expecting
Definitely.
some phones and headphones and that kind of thing, so it should be a good event.
And Samsung are hinting that it's going to be a little cheaper. So those of you that think, like I, that they do like to get a bit of cashola out of you, it apparently will be a bit cheaper. Be interesting to see.
Yep.
I hope
Thomas
so.
says last week you had 154 subscribers. This week you're at 164. Yes, we did get
Yeah.
10 news.
Very nice.
Thank you very much for joining us there on the YouTube side. Again, keep sharing it out, keep liking, and hopefully we get more people subscribed. So that'll be good.
And I'd like to thank those half a dozen or so that we had listening today as well throughout the show. It was good. So thank you for tuning in.
Yes, and thank you for the two or three that left. We appreciate you too. All right, thank you everybody, and we'll
Thank
see
you.
you all next, well, on Thursday, I suppose.
Thank you guys, and I'll catch you midweek.
Bye, Kurt.
Have a good one, everybody.